Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Alexandria Industrial Development Authority regular/special meeting of 7/16. Quickly, we'll do a roll call of the IDA members and our partners. Dwight Dunton. Please just, I'm sorry, acknowledge that you are present. Dwight Dunton?
Yes, present. Can you hear me?
Yes,
present?
we can hear you. Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Jennifer Atkins?
Here.
Dak Hardwick?
I am present.
Christopher Hartman?
Here.
And then our counsel, Mike Graff?
Here.
Our finance director, Kendall Taylor?
I'm here.
Excellent. And I am Stephanie Landrum, the administrator. On the screen, you will see our agenda for today. So I'd like to officially welcome you all. In the absence of a chair, I'm going to help facilitate this meeting. Our first item that we need to consider is the approval of the June 24th meeting summary minutes. Those were provided to everyone in advance and are now up on the screen. Would anyone like to make a motion to accept these?
I move we accept the meetings of the June 24th meeting, or the minutes, sorry.
And I second the motion.
Great. Any comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The minutes have been approved. The next item on the agenda is the election of officers. Since our June 24th meeting, we had 3 members of the IDA resign, to include our current chair and vice chair. And so that leaves both of those positions vacant. So we would be looking for a motion, or we can have a discussion here about anyone who is interested in serving in the chair or vice chair capacity and or the secretary capacity. See a lot of interest, a lot of energy.
I would like to make a motion that Dwight Dutton serve as chair of the Alexandria Industrial Development Authority.
Great. Dwight, would you accept that nomination?
I'm here to serve. If that's what our board would like, I would accept that role.
Great. Then is there a second for?
I heartily second that motion.
Great. We can take these individually, or I guess we could elect the entire slate at once if the group is amenable to that. Is there anyone interested in serving in the vice chair position, or is there a nomination?
I would like to nominate Jennifer Atkins to be the vice chair of the Alexandria Industrial Development Authority.
Great. Jen, would you accept that nomination?
I will happily serve.
I second that.
Okay. How about the secretary position? This is extremely important when it comes to signing documents.
I would like to nominate Chris Hartman to be secretary of the Alexandria Industrial Development Authority.
Chris, would you accept that nomination?
Just in how effectively Dak is delegating and nominating. I'd be happy to, yes, please.
Awesome, great. Is there a second for that?
I second that as well.
Okay, so we have a slate of.
Stephanie?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Mike. I wonder if I could ask the directors of the Development Authority if they would consider electing an assistant secretary, and perhaps that could be an ex officio member of the director of the Development Authority, and perhaps the directors of the IDA would consider Stephanie Landrum as assistant secretary. This is helpful again in the context of obtaining signatures, and so I'm happy to answer any questions about that suggestion if there are any.
Mike, is that something that other IDAs have a setup like that?
Yeah, it's a very common arrangement, Jen. Yes.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
I'm currently serving in that role and have signed a number of documents in that role over recent years.
So, which leads me to a question of: do we need to? Is it worthwhile to reaffirm it? Do we need to do it since Stephanie didn't resign?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point, Dak. Stephanie, are you confident that you're in that position currently?
Yes, last year when we elected officers, they did affirm or elect me to that position. But I think it would be clean if the group is amenable to just do the entire slate again.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt certainly, but it may be superfluous. I forgot about that.
Well, then I just for the sake of clarity, I'll make the motion that Stephanie continue in the capacity as Assistant Secretary of the IDA.
And I will second the motion.
Great. Okay, so that leaves then for consideration the slate election of officers as follows: Dwight Denton as chair, Jennifer Atkins as vice chair, Christopher Hartman as secretary, and Stephanie Landrum as assistant secretary. If there are no other nominations from the floor, then I would ask for the group to motion to then pass the entire slate as presented.
I move that we pass the entire slate as presented.
Great. And a second?
I second it, Dwight Duncan.
Great. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Excellent. Any opposed? All right. Congratulations. And we have a new slate of leaders. And with that, I can turn the meeting over to you, Dwight, if you would like to run the rest of the agenda.
Yes. Thank you, Stephanie, for
Congratulations.
filling in for our leadership void for the last 7 minutes. I'd like to move on in the agenda. Is there any new business items at this moment that we need to discuss?
None that I'm aware of. Mike?
Yeah. Stephanie and Dwight, it's Mike. Did we want to talk about the disclosure forms, or have we beat that dead horse sufficiently? And then the new business that I have relates to some signatures for our Parkstone closing. But
Okay, great. So then, yes, we can have a discussion about the annual disclosure forms under old business. I think, as mentioned at the last meeting, you all should have received, following the meeting, a communication from the city clerk with instructions on how to complete your annual disclosure form, which is due to be filed with the Alexandria City Clerk by August 1st, I believe is the deadline. And that form is due by anyone who was serving effective July 1st. So that would be the 4 authority members who are present. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask, hopefully of Mike and not of me, about completing that form?
This is Chris. I just wanted to clarify a couple things just to make sure I don't mess this up. One, this is financial condition as of 12/31/19, correct?
that's correct.
And in our capacity and given the nature of the IDA, and given COVID and some places maybe not even being open physically, the delivery of this is done how once completed?
I believe there's an electronic delivery method. Is that your understanding, Stephanie, or shall I check with Gloria?
I'm happy to check with the clerk. So I, as the administrator, I actually don't receive the communication from the clerk, so I have not seen what got sent to you all.
Hey,
But
Mike, we've never, the city has to do those, and if there is an electronic way, nobody has let us take advantage of that. So, I mean, it's a stack of paper and we all fill it out. So I'm also happy to check over here with Gloria to see what our options are.
Hey, also
But I'm not-
Stephanie,
Go ahead.
sorry. I was just going to say, Stephanie, I just searched. I never got the email.
You did not. Okay.
So I searching on Gloria's name, so maybe it came from somebody else, but
It came from Mark Williams right after
Okay.
our last meeting.
okay. So
That is not who I got it from. I got it from Kaya Waters.
I was just going to say, Kaya, I was looking up her name. Kaya Waters is in the city clerk's office, and that is who sent out the communication, I believe, to all the boards and commissions.
Yeah, so I did not get that. So it'd be helpful if we could flag this down, because if there's an
Yeah.
electronic version that we just submit through a portal, that would be obviously better. And that would answer my question too, because I was reading through this material and I don't remember exactly, but I feel like I read if you're in a certain type of organization, it gets filed directly with the state. If you're within another type of organization, you got to run it through the city first, and the city pushes it to the state. But I think as long as I get that email with the official link to the document, then that probably takes care of that.
Great.
And then the only,
I'll put
sorry,
in a request to the city clerk to send me the communication, and then I will send it out to all of you so that you, it should arrive in all of your inboxes, and hopefully you have me on a do not block list.
no. And the only other question I had, which I posted to the group yesterday, is around securities that you do not have control over, the investment choices or investment decisions. The document's very clear with regards to reporting things that you do have control over. But Mike, are you aware of how to handle, or whether or not just completely ignore any assets that are managed professionally and not in your control?
I think you can ignore those.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, I have one question. In the area where it talks about real estate owned investment properties, we own, I have ownerships in LLCs, which
Yeah.
in turn own real estate. How do I disclose that appropriately?
I think you would just list. I think you would just list the properties.
So let me clarify. I have ownership in LLCs, which in turn have ownership in LLCs, which eventually own properties.
Right.
So do I need to disclose that I own a investment interest or an interest in the highest level LLC, or do I need to disclose every piece of real estate that those LLCs have ownership in?
Well, do the LLCs have multiple real estate holdings, or are they special?
I mean, the things that I have direct ownership in have multiple LLCs that it has ownership in.
Okay. Well, maybe I can take a look at that question and get back to you, Dwight, if that's okay.
Yes, because it's unclear, given my circumstances, what the appropriate way to disclose my business interests are, because I have business interests, which in turn eventually own real estate, which I guess if I owned a gas station, that would be my business. The gas station in turn owns a piece of real estate. Does the gas station need to disclose it on the form? And that's my thought as to, I'm not sure how to list it appropriately.
Okay. I'll take a look at that and circle back to you.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the form?
So I don't have a question about the form, but I have more of a question about the follow-up that we had relative to the General Assembly conversation. So I get two questions. Have you any update on trying to reverse the decision from the General Assembly? But then a follow-on question is assuming that is not going to happen, is there a way that your organization, I think it's, forgive me, I think it's Virginia Economic. Yeah, it's VITA, right? Is there a way for VITA to advocate to state legislators the ability for us to utilize the state electronic system versus having to file with the city? Because if they're going to require this, then at least give us the option to do it electronically on the state system.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to give an update on that. So the Virginia Economic Developers Association, of which I'm the immediate past president and still serve on the executive committee, had a discussion about this following our IDA meeting back at the end of June. And the consensus was that the majority of IDAs and EDAs throughout the state did not realize that this change had been made. And so we, as the kind of educational and policy organization, sent out a communication to all of the economic developers in the state and said, FYI, this change was passed during the General Assembly session. It goes into effect July 1st. Please make sure you notify your IDA and EDA authority members. And then second, should this form cause any changes in service, please share that information with us so that we can have kind of a comprehensive look at the impact of this form throughout the Commonwealth. We're still compiling that information, but I will tell you, I've seen some results. There are small communities in the Commonwealth where the entire IDA resigned. And those communities, two of the emails I saw basically said there are only a handful of businesses in their entire community. Those business leaders were the ones serving on the IDA, and they now are concerned about being able to do incentive deals and meet commitments for projects or investments that were already made. So I think that the compilation of all this information will tell an interesting story. We have been working with we have professionals who work within VITA who are lobbyists and who are lawyers, and there's not optimism that this will be rolled back. This change was based on a couple of high-profile incidents in the Commonwealth, and there's not going to be a large appetite to become less transparent, which is how this would be phrased. And so I think our mission right now as VITA is just to share the impact and to talk through any mitigating steps that might make it easier, to continue to either recruit IDA members, and if in some instances, in some communities, they actually can't recruit members, to talk through, how those communities are supposed to continue to operate and do incentive deals and make investments. In many parts, I know this group's talked a little bit about this, but in many parts of the Commonwealth, the IDA actually builds buildings, owns property, and is responsible for creating the product that then attracts businesses. And so it can be pretty devastating in a small community where this is the only tool they have, to impact economic development. So I think it's a long-winded answer. I think that the conversation will continue once the special session begins, and we at VITA have prepared ourselves to at least have data to share, but it's not quite done yet, not quite compiled. And then on your second piece about the ask to file electronically, that's certainly something that I can feed back up through our group.
Not to prolong the conversation, I sort of wonder if there are some communities around Virginia that are having a problem recruiting IDA members. It's almost like, how do you set up a proxy IDA for those small communities that can at least keep business going in the absence of local members that can participate? Maybe there's a statewide board. I don't know. That's certainly not my area of expertise, but I can understand the tough challenge that these smaller communities will have. So,
well, Mike can correct me if I say this wrong, but Alexandria IDA's history actually includes us being a pass-through entity for projects in other parts of the state before IDAs were created in other communities. And so maybe there actually will be some additional business, to issue bonds on behalf of other communities where they don't have a functioning body any longer.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Of course. Okay. So lots of follow-up items there for me. I will be in touch with you all once I receive a communication from the city clerk. So back, I guess, then to new business. Dwight, sorry about that.
That's okay. It was a robust conversation.
Yeah.
Is there any more new business items for us?
I think Mike had one item.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie and Dwight. So we had scheduled a closing of that Ivana Parkstone Affordable Housing Bond financing before this all transpired over the last couple of weeks, which was sort of part of the urgency of asking you to convene this afternoon and elect officers. And that closing has been scheduled for a couple of weeks for tomorrow. And so I do have closing signature pages that I need to distribute in order to keep that closing on track. And it's a little bit more seat of the pants than I would typically do things. And certainly going forward, we'll have an opportunity to walk the officers more kind of fulsomely through the closing process on the transactions. And what I've typically done with Stephanie and with prior officers is meet in person and present the signature pages and explain what documents are. But I'm not sure that we're going to necessarily have the luxury to do that as thoroughly as I would like for this particular one. With all that being said, I was wondering if I would need either Dwight or Jen, and then either Chris or Stephanie to let me know if they would be available to receive electronically signature pages as soon as I can type your names in this afternoon and scan them back to me this afternoon or as early as you could in the morning. And so I wanted to try to make those logistics arrangements. And again, on very short notice, but I think it'll just for this one deal where I will jam you up in this way.
Sure, I'm available, but I will certainly let Chris have the glory of signing as secretary if you would like to.
I can be available electronically. I don't know if I'm going to have access to a printer for the rest of the day. So if it needs a printer, I might need to wait until first thing in the morning. But if it's electronic, I can take care of it that way.
I think you would need to, I mean, how do you sign without printing it? Are you thinking of like DocuSign or something? Or
Yeah,
Yeah,
can
I
we
didn't
just
know-
use DocuSign?
does that have to, I'm showing my ignorance, but does that have to be built into the signature pages that I send to you? Or if I send you electronically signature pages, are you able to DocuSign them on your end without me having
No.
to?
Yeah, it's a thing. You would need to make it an e-sign document on your end and push it.
Mike, I can do that. My team can do that if you can send me the document. We can.
Do you need it in Word or in PDF or?
As a PDF, and then we can load it in.
Okay.
And we can do it in order. That's another thing that you can do. We can send it to Dwight to sign, and then followed by Chris.
Yeah, we can actually do counterparts, so they don't have to sign on the same page. I hate to put you out, Stephanie, but
my team just did hundreds of them for our Back to Business grant, so they are very capable of doing it.
All right. All right. So so it'll be Dwight and Chris then that can do DocuSign this evening or in the morning, or is that the convenient team?
Dwight, are you available?
Yes, DocuSign works great. I use it multiple times a day.
Perfect. Okay. Great.
All right, I really appreciate that. Then Stephanie, as soon as we're done, I'll type in I think I have, maybe if I could just real quickly, if Dwight and Chris could confirm your full names as you like to see them on documents.
My legal name is Dwight D. Dunson III.
Okay. And Chris?
Christopher D. Hartman.
Christopher D. Hartman. Okay, great. Well, I'll plug the signature blocks in and then just email it to you, Stephanie.
Perfect. Yes, and then I will distribute it.
I really appreciate it. And sorry for all the last minute drama on this one.
Okay, unplanned. All right. Right at 3:30, I know our chair and others need to go. So
is there a motion for adjournment?
Move we adjourn.
Excellent.
Is there a second?
The dog seconded it. Okay. Great. All right. Yeah, I think Dak did. So there you go.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.